Some of the cheapest tools I tested outperformed the expensive ones, while others, they were a total disaster. Today, I'll share with you which craft supplies are worth splurging on and which cheap dupes will shock you in a good way. Every day, new craft supplies hit the market, from $1 bargains to $100 splurges. And that got me thinking, which ones are really worth it? So I did what any craft-obsessed, paper-loving person would do. I bought the cheapest and most expensive versions of the same tool to find out once and for all. Today, I'll be putting them to the test in the ultimate craft supply challenge. Will the pricey tools blow me away, or will the budget finds steal the show? Stick around because some of these results honestly shocked me. I can't wait to show you which budget buys outperformed their expensive counterparts. It's time to get testing so that you know where to spend and where to save. Starting with one of the most basic supplies. Every paper crafter needs a trimmer, and I found a really cheap one on Amazon. Now, I could test it against my usual paper trimmer, but I was concerned that that might skew the results. So I've bought another very popular brand, and then I can test two brand new to me trimmers. This is the Fiskars Shortcut paper trimmer. So the Amazon paper trimmer cost me only $10.99, while the Fiskars paper trimmer costs a whopping $85. I'm really excited to see just how these two perform. So right out of the box, there's a big difference here. This one does feel really light and flimsy. It's very flexible. It feels cheap. Unfortunately, I'm guessing it's going to get the job done, but yeah, it does feel very cheaply made. This one, on the other hand, it feels substantial. You can tell that it's made from quality supplies. I love too that you get a spare blade, and it also has some functionality that this one just doesn't have. What I mean by that is this arm here. This allows you to measure wider pieces of paper. This one just does not have that function at all. And I feel like too, the measurements on this one are far more clear. You have inches here, which is really nice. I feel like these measurements here are very clear. I noticed too, this one is actually only in centimeters. I think I'm going to have a lot of trouble working with this trimmer. We better test it out though. I do have several bits of paper that I want to try and cut so that we can see what the cuts are like. I've gathered some cardstock, a piece of acetate, pattern paper, vellum, and this thick glitter cardstock to test. I'll cut each of these in both trimmers and then I can compare the results. So as you can see, both of the trimmers did an excellent job of cutting the pattern papers. This is going to come down to functionality and the ease of use of the trimmer itself. For me, hands down, the winner is the Fiskars trimmer. I just found this one so much easier to use. I'm not sure if it's because I have this wire guide to tell me where I'm cutting, or if it's because the measurements are clear, or if it's just because it's so much more sturdy. See how it doesn't move on my desk? This one just moves so easily. And the fact that this piece goes to the left rather than the right, I found that really hard to adjust to. The one thing I do love about this trimmer are these 45 and 90 degree angle measurements. I wish these measurements were on this trimmer as well, because I could see these being really, really handy. I think for this first tool, you are better off spending the money and getting a more substantial paper trimmer. This is the one tool in your stash you will use over and over and over again, and ease of use and functionality are really important. Even if you were starting out and really on a tight budget, I would not recommend this one. I would recommend saving up and getting something a little bit more substantial. I'm already questioning my decisions here, and I'm wondering if any of these cheap supplies are actually going to be worth it. I do have one more basic tool to test, but this video is not just about the basics. I want to test the fun tools too, and I can't wait to show you those. So next up we have scissors, and I do want to test two types. These are the two separate types that I use on almost every papercraft project, and I did find some cheaper knockoff versions. First up, these are the Copic scissors, and they are $31 on Amazon. And then we have these Detail Craft scissors, and they're in a 2-pack for $10. Straight away, I can see that this blade is very, very pointed, far more pointed than this one. And interestingly, it is curved. See the curve there? So I will test them out. These ones have always been my favorite because they're just so comfortable to work with. I have spent hours and hours fussy cutting out elements and never had any issues at all with wrist or hand pain. These next ones I use a lot just for cutting tape and general straight cuts of things, and I thought these ones looked very, very similar. They're even made in the same way with the top screw there, and then even this bit, this thing that helps them to stay closed. I'm actually very keen to try those out as well. So I have a range of papers to try. Let's start with the cardstock, just to give me a base cut. They feel very sharp. They don't feel that comfortable though already. Let's try these. I can tell that this blade, this section here, is a lot longer. I can feel it as I'm using the scissor. But other than that, these ones are a bit firmer as well, but I think that's just because they're new. These ones are very old, and they've been, the springs had to work a lot more than this fresh spring. I really like them. I think in a blind test, it would be very hard for me to tell these two apart. I think it's time to see just how well these will do some fussy cutting. If this video's helped you make smarter crafty decisions, press the subscribe button like a sticker to a scrapbook so you don't miss out on the next video. So these do look very similar. The edges look fine, look very similar to me. You couldn't tell the difference. The one thing I did notice though is that these scissors are already causing me pain. I don't get wrist pain when I'm fussy cutting, but I did with these, and that's a big problem. I did not enjoy that at all. So these are going to be a fail for me. These are not good fussy cutting scissors. They're probably fine for maybe cutting off the threads from the back of your project or using to cut tape, but no way would I use those to fussy cut with. These ones, on the other hand, are a definite yes for me. I think these feel very, very similar, and these were $8. So well worth the spend, I think. If you were just starting out and you didn't want to spend $30 on a pair of scissors, I would definitely recommend these. That's the basics covered. It's now time for the fun supplies. Let's get stamping. For the stamps, there is a huge difference in price. Let me show you what I ordered. First up, this stamp and stencil set from Altenew. This one comes with a stencil for $77.99 and I couldn't find anywhere to purchase these items separately. The cheaper product is this one from Copic and they look pretty similar, right? What I also found helpful was that each of these products did have card samples so that I could see the products in use. At the time of ordering, I genuinely thought that I was comparing two very similar things. But here's what actually arrived. This is the beautiful stamp that I got from Altenew, and it's actually a lot larger than I thought it was going to be, and I'm so excited about that because I think I could use this on a scrapbook layout as well as a card. I did have to purchase it as a set, and it did come with the stamp, the stencil, and this mini ink blending tool. I know that I will work much better if I have the coordinating die, so I got that too. This is it here, and it was $58.99. So this complete set, well over $100, which is quite a splurge, right? So obviously this will be the expensive supply for this test. Let me show you the cheap one. Here it is, and yes. So obviously the big difference here is the size. And I do feel a little bit disappointed actually. Not to worry, we'll work with what we have. This was $6 and you do still get floral images and very cute little sentiments, so I can work with that. So here are the stamps side by side. They're similar. This one is a fair bit thinner than this one, but I still think they're going to work. I'm a terrible stamper, so I will need a stamp platform. And of course I'm going to try this with the Misty. It is the original and some would say the best. This one is now $120 to buy. The cheaper counterpart is the Stamp Master. This is a Stamp Master and it only costs $30. So I'm really excited to test it out against the Misty. The thing I love the most is that it has the ruler just on two sides. And I'm hoping that means that I can use it on all of my 12 by 12 inch scrapbook layouts. Okay, so already I can tell that this is very similar. It comes with the two magnets like the Misty, and it comes with this foam backing the same as the Misty. The hinge looks a little different, but not crazy different. And then the front, it has inches and centimeters, which is actually an upgrade compared to the Misty. And it is definitely wider, but maybe not quite as long. So it's wobbling because I have the magnets on the back here. So let me put them where they're meant to be. And then it has the foam pad similar to the Misty. I didn't notice that it had this here. And I hope that does mean that I can still use larger pieces of paper. I think it does. That's the one thing I'm really, really excited about with this platform. This one does feel more substantial, but not by a lot. Not by a lot at all. It's time to stamp the images out. So what I will do is I'll stamp both of the images using both of the platforms, and then we can compare the results. So here are all the stamped images, and I'm so thankful I labelled them because I cannot tell these apart. They are identical. I would not know which was stamped with a Misty and which was stamped with a Stamp Master. This is an absolute winner for me, and I'm actually surprised. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I almost want to say that I think I prefer the Stamp Master. Wow, I'm actually shocked by that, but I love this. So if you haven't bought yourself a stamping platform and you're wondering about the difference between an expensive one and a cheaper one, the Stamp Master is well worth looking into. So for those who missed the Journal Say video, this is their ink blending brush and it is only $6.45. I have used it, I've loved it, it's worked really well for me, so I am super keen to compare it to the Altenew ink blending brush. This one is $21. So straight out of the box, it looks very similar, super similar in fact. Let's compare them side by side. That is so similar. Wow. So it does have different bristles, that's very clear. And the plastic is a little bit different. It has like a different kind of covering. I don't know whether that means it's a different quality plastic. And obviously it has their branding on it as well. But other than that, I want to say this is exactly the same size. This feels so similar. Oh, I can't wait to test this. Okay, so I have some plain cardstock and I thought I would try this Distress Oxide Crushed Olive. I was hoping to find a colour that was not too dark because I just don't use dark colours, but also one that wasn't too light. I want you to be able to see the difference here. So let's do, actually I should label this. I'll label this side Altenew and this side Journal Say. Imagine if the $6 one is better. I think this one's picking up more ink. I feel like we created this much ink with less work. Did you notice that? Is there a difference that's worth the price difference though? I'm thinking maybe not. What do you think? Do you know what? I'm wondering if I did a blind test, if I would notice the difference. I think just looking at these done, I prefer this one, but I don't know whether my mind is sort of skewed because I know that that's the most expensive one. I really thought this one was going to be so much better. Interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd love to know your thoughts, whether you would go with the Altenew one or you would stick with this Journal Say no name generic one. Wow. I have a quick test for you. Can you tell the difference between these two sets of images? One is coloured in with Ohuhu markers, which is a budget-friendly choice. The other is coloured with Copic markers. Well, this one is actually coloured with the Ohuhu, and this is coloured with Copics. And I'm thinking there's not a lot of difference here at all. Did you guess correctly? Let me know in the comments below. You'll probably already know that I have both Copic and Ohuhu markers in my collection. Both are excellent, but if you do want a budget-friendly choice, I would highly recommend going with the Ohuhu. Okay, so far so good, but here's where things get interesting. Testing supplies individually only tells us so much. The bigger question is, how do these supplies actually perform when you're making something? To answer that, I'll create two cards. One using just the cheap supplies and the other using all of the expensive ones. Let's see if it really makes a difference. So here are the two cards I created. Now I know you're going to know right away which is which because that stamp set just gives it away. Having said that, I love how this turned out and I really love this stamp. I just wish it was bigger. Now, as I was creating these, I realized that this wasn't really a true test because I knew that you would know that this was the card created with all of the cheaper products. So guess what I did? I created another card. This card also uses this stamp set. One of these cards is using all of the cheap supplies, the other is using the expensive supplies. So this is really about the tools that I tested. Can you tell? which card I used the Misty on, which one I used the Stamp Master on. What about those blending brushes? Can you tell the difference? There's not a lot of difference here. I really feel like this test would even be more accurate had this stamp been larger. If you imagine this stamp in the same size as this, I think it would be very, very hard to tell the difference between the cheaper and the more expensive supplies. The one thing I did notice was that those cheaper supplies did slow me down. Those cheap scissors are the absolute worst. The paper trimmer I found very clunky and hard to work with because of that sliding that I mentioned earlier. The cheap ink blending brush that I used here, I had to use it quite a few times to get that ink to show here. So overall, I would say that the more expensive supplies did help me create faster. So here's the bottom line. Yes, the more expensive versions generally outperformed the cheaper ones. No big shock there. What did surprise me though was just how good the cheaper options were. They may not be perfect, but they absolutely got the job done at a fraction of the price. Choosing all the cheaper options of the supplies I tested today would save you $450. The real takeaway? You don't need to buy expensive supplies to create amazing things. My advice is to buy the best quality tools you can afford, but don't let a tight budget stop you from enjoying this hobby. Paper crafting is about creativity and joy and really has nothing to do with how much you spend on supplies. Speaking of crafting on a budget, if you'd like to learn more ways to save, be sure to watch this video next. I share my favorite frugal crafting tips. Thank you so much for being here. I will see you in the next video. Until then, bye.